The call came on a Tuesday morning, 6 days after my 40th wedding anniversary celebration. I was sitting in my sunroom, still surrounded by congratulations cards and photos from the party, when my phone rang. The number was familiar but unexpected. "Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore?" The voice was professional but hesitant. "This is Jessica Chen from Riverside Manor, the venue coordinator for your anniversary event last week." "Yes. Hello, Jessica. Is everything all right?" I thought we'd settled all the accounts. There was a pause that made my stomach tighten. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need to discuss something with you in person. It's regarding the payment processing, but it's complicated. Are you able to come to my office today? And please, I'd appreciate if you came alone. Don't mention this to your daughter just yet." The air in my sunroom changed. That phrase, "don't mention this to your daughter," sent ice through my veins. "What kind of complication are you talking about?" "I really can't explain over the phone. But Mrs. Whitmore, I think you need to see the documents I've found. Can you be here at 2 o'clock? I agreed, my hands already shaking as I set down the phone. My daughter Caroline had handled all the arrangements for the vow renewal ceremony. She'd insisted on it, actually, saying it would be her gift to me and Thomas after 40 years of marriage. She'd found the venue, coordinated with vendors, managed the guest list. I'd been so grateful. Planning a party for 200 people while dealing with my retirement transition had felt overwhelming, and Caroline had swooped in like the capable, loving daughter I'd always believed she was. Now, staring at the phone, I felt the first whisper of something wrong. Thomas was at his monthly cardiology appointment. My husband had been managing heart issues for the past 3 years, nothing immediately life-threatening but enough to require regular monitoring and medication. I'd been the healthy one, the strong one, working full-time as Human Resources Director at Meridian Corp until my retirement party just 2 months ago. We'd planned the anniversary celebration as a double milestone, my retirement, and our 40 years together. "Perfect timing," Caroline had said. "A new chapter for both of you." I drove to Riverside Manor in a daze, my mind cycling through possibilities. A billing error? A vendor dispute? But why the secrecy? Why the request to come alone? Jessica's office was tucked in the administrative wing of the elegant event space. She stood when I entered, a woman in her mid-30s with careful eyes and a manila folder clutched against her chest like a shield. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Whitmore. Please, sit down." She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I've been debating whether to reach out to you since yesterday, but my conscience won't let me stay silent." She opened the folder, spreading papers across the desk. "Last Thursday, 2 days after your event, I received a call from your daughter Caroline. She requested that we issue a refund for the difference between the actual event costs and what you'd paid." I frowned. "I don't understand." Caroline managed all the vendor contracts. She said the total was $42,000, which Thomas and I paid directly to your venue from our savings account. "Yes, exactly." Jessica's finger tapped a document. "And that's the problem. The actual contracted amount for your event was $28,000. Your daughter negotiated all vendor fees, got several discounts because she claimed financial hardship for the family, but she told you it cost $42,000. The numbers swam in my vision. "Are you saying—" She collected $14,000 more than the actual cost. And now she's requesting we issue the refund directly to her personal account, claiming it was an overpayment error that she needs to handle discreetly to avoid embarrassing you. My mouth went dry. That doesn't make sense. Why would I overpay? Jessica pulled out another document, this one with my signature at the bottom. "This is the payment authorization you signed, but look here," she pointed to a line of text. "The amount is listed as $42,000. Your daughter must have presented you with this form and you signed it trusting the number was accurate. We deposited that amount. But our actual invoice to your family was $28,000. Where's the difference?" That's what I wanted to know. So I checked our communication records. She turned her computer screen toward me. An email thread filled the display. These are messages between Caroline and myself during the planning process. In this one from 3 months ago, She asks about splitting the payment, having you pay the venue directly while she handles the smaller vendors separately. I agreed. It's not uncommon. But look at this. She scrolled down. Another email, sent the day after our anniversary party, from Caroline to Jessica. Hi, Jessica. I realize we may have an accounting mix-up. I'm checking my records and believe my parents may have accidentally overpaid based on an earlier quote. Can you verify the final total and process a refund for the difference to my account? I'd like to handle this quietly. They're elderly, and I don't want to confuse them with financial details. Let me know the amount, and I'll send my banking information. I stared at the word, elderly. I was 62, retired, yes, but hardly confused or incapable. The condescension in that single word hit me like a slap. There's more, Jessica said quietly. She pulled up another document. This one, a vendor contract. Your daughter signed agreements with the catering company, the florist, the photographer. But I noticed something odd. She negotiated aggressively for the lowest possible prices, telling vendors your family was on a tight budget. Yet she told you the costs were significantly higher. How much higher? Jessica did quick calculations on a notepad. Based on the invoices I can access, I estimate she inflated the total by at least $15,000 to $18,000. The refund she's requesting is only for the portion paid through us, but there's likely more she collected directly from you for vendor deposits that were actually much smaller. My hands were shaking now. Why are you telling me this? Because yesterday she called again, frustrated that I hadn't processed her refund. She implied that if I didn't handle it discreetly, there would be complaints about our service. And Mrs. Whitmore, I've been doing this job for 12 years. I've seen family financial abuse before. The pattern is very specific. Adult child controls the planning, inflates costs, pockets the difference, then creates urgency and secrecy to prevent the parents from discovering the truth. I couldn't let this happen without at least telling you. I sat in that office for another hour while Jessica printed every email, every contract, every invoice. The evidence was staggering. My daughter had systematically lied about costs across every aspect of the anniversary celebration. The elegant cake I'd admired? $2,000. Not $4,000 as she'd told me. The photography package? $3,500, not $6,500. The flowers, the music, the rental fees, everything inflated by 30 to 50%. When I finally left Riverside Manor, I had a folder thick with documents and a crushing weight in my chest. This wasn't a simple mistake or misunderstanding. This was deliberate, calculated theft. From her own parents. At an event celebrating our marriage. I couldn't go home. Not yet. I drove instead to a coffee shop downtown, found a quiet corner booth, and forced myself to think. To really examine the past year through this new, sickening lens. Caroline had become intensely involved in our finances after my retirement. She'd helped us organize our accounts, suggested we consolidate savings, recommended we update our estate plan. Thomas and I had appreciated her concern. She was our only child, a successful nurse practitioner married to Marcus, who owned a real estate development company. They seemed financially stable. They'd never asked us for money. Except now I remembered. 6 months ago, Caroline had mentioned that Marcus's current project was having temporary cash flow issues, and they'd had to dip into their savings. Nothing serious, she'd assured us, just the nature of real estate development. But maybe there was more to that story. And then there was the house situation. 3 months ago, just before my retirement party, Caroline had broached a topic over dinner. Mom, Dad, Marcus and I have been thinking, you two are getting older. This house is too much maintenance. What if you sold and moved into something smaller, maybe a nice senior community? We could help you find a place. And you know, with the market being so strong right now, you could sell for a great price. Thomas had dismissed it immediately. We're not moving. I built this house. We raised you in this house. We're staying. Caroline had dropped it, but she'd brought it up twice more in the following weeks. each time emphasizing how the house was too much for us, how we should enjoy retirement without the burden of property maintenance. Now I wondered, what was she really after? The profit from forcing us to sell? Access to our equity? I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never done before. I logged into our bank accounts and began reviewing transactions. Thomas handled most of our finances, but I had access to everything. We'd always been a team that way, no secrets. The payments to Riverside Manor were there, exactly as expected. $42,000, transferred 2 weeks before the anniversary party. But then I saw other transactions. Payments to Caroline's personal account, labeled venue deposits, and vendor advance payments. $10,000 in February, $8,000 in March, $6,000 in April. Small enough that Thomas probably hadn't questioned them, large enough to add up to a devastating total. $24,000, transferred directly to our daughter, supposedly for anniversary party expenses. Combined with the inflated venue payment, Caroline had extracted over $40,000 from us under the guise of planning our celebration. $40,000 stolen through lies and manipulation. I was still sitting in that coffee shop, staring at my phone screen, when a text message arrived. From Caroline. "Mom, are you home? I need to talk to you and Dad about something important. Coming by at 6. The casual tone, the assumption she could just show up, it suddenly felt predatory. I looked at the time. 4:30. Thomas would be home from his appointment by now, probably wondering where I was. I texted back, "I'm out running errands. Can it wait until tomorrow?" Her response came immediately. "It's kind of urgent. About your finances. I've been reviewing your accounts like you asked, and there are some concerns we need to discuss." Like I asked? I'd never asked Caroline to review our accounts. She'd offered, insisted actually, saying it would help us optimize our retirement planning. And now she wanted to discuss concerns about our finances? The finances she'd been actively stealing from? I texted Thomas, "On my way home. Don't let Caroline in if she comes by. I'll explain when I get there." His reply was confused. "Everything okay?" "No. But we'll handle it together." I drove home with the folder of evidence on the passenger seat, my mind already shifting from shock to something colder, harder. If I'd learned anything in 25 years of human resources work, it was how to document misconduct, build a case, and take decisive action. I'd spent my career protecting companies from internal threats. Now I needed to protect my family from one. Thomas was standing in the driveway when I pulled up, concern etched across his face. Before I could get out of the car, I saw Caroline's silver Mercedes turning onto our street. "Go inside," I told Thomas. "Now, trust me." We made it through the front door just as Caroline pulled up behind my car. She was out quickly, her expression shifting from pleasant to frustrated when she saw us retreating inside. I locked the door. Through the window, I watched my daughter approach the front step, confusion crossing her features. She knocked, then texted. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. "Mom, why are you locking me out? I just need to talk to you." Thomas stood in our foyer, his face pale. "Eleanor, what is happening?" I spread the documents from Jessica Chen across our dining room table. "Sit down. We need to look at something." For the next 30 minutes, I walked my husband through every piece of evidence. The inflated costs, the fake vendor fees, the direct payments to Caroline's account, the refund request, the mounting evidence that our daughter had stolen more than $40,000 from us while planning a party meant to celebrate our marriage. Thomas aged a decade in those 30 minutes. His hands trembled as he held the bank statements, his breathing growing labored. I made him take his medication, forced him to drink water, watched him process the same sickening realization I'd felt in Jessica Chen's office. "Why?" he whispered finally. "We would have helped her if she needed money. We've always helped her." "I don't think this is about need," I said. "I think this is about opportunity. And I think it's been going on longer than just the anniversary party." My phone was ringing constantly now. "Caroline, calling over and over. Texts multiplying. "Mom, this is ridiculous. Let me in. What's going on?" Then, "I'm worried about you. Are you having some kind of episode? Should I call someone?" That last text, implying I was mentally unstable, that I might need medical intervention, it crystallized everything. This wasn't just theft. This was a pattern of manipulation that probably ran deeper than I'd yet discovered. I turned to Thomas. "I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Caroline been talking to you about selling the house? About our estate plan? About your health?" He hesitated, and I saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke. "She's been asking about my heart condition, wanting to come to my appointments, suggesting that maybe we should give her power of attorney, just in case something happens suddenly." "When did these conversations start?" "Right after you retired. She said with you not working anymore, if something happened to me, you'd be vulnerable. She wanted to make sure there were protections in place. Power of attorney." The words hung between us like a death sentence. If Thomas had signed that document, if something happened to his health, Caroline would have had legal control over all our decisions, our assets, our lives. "Did you sign anything?" "No. I told her we'd think about it. But Eleanor, she's been very persistent. She brought it up at my last 3 appointments." I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Estate planning, power of attorney, financial exploitation of elderly, elder abuse statutes in our state. I'd spent my career in human resources, studying employment law, but this was different territory. I needed to understand what we were dealing with, what protections existed, what actions we could take. Thomas sat beside me, reading over my shoulder. "We need a lawyer," he said finally. "Not tomorrow. Now." I found the name through a colleague's recommendation, Patricia Morrison, elder law attorney, specializing in financial exploitation and estate protection. Her office agreed to an emergency consultation the next morning. That night, Caroline's texts evolved from concerned to angry. "I know you're upset about something. At least tell me what I did wrong. Then Marcus says you're probably confused about the anniversary expenses. I have receipts for everything. Can we please just sit down and talk?" Finally, around midnight, "Fine. I'll give you space. But Mom, Dad, I love you. Whatever this is, we're family. We can work it out." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I spent the night documenting everything. I created a timeline of Caroline's financial involvement in our lives. I printed every bank statement from the past year. I organized Jessica Chen's evidence into a coherent narrative. By dawn, I had a comprehensive file that told a clear story of systematic theft and manipulation. Thomas barely slept. I heard him moving through the house in the dark, his footsteps heavy with betrayal. Around 4 a.m., I found him in our daughter's old bedroom, sitting on her childhood bed, surrounded by photos and memories. "I keep thinking about where we went wrong," he said when I sat beside him. "What we did that made her think this was acceptable. We didn't do this," I told him firmly. "She made these choices. We loved her, supported her, gave her every advantage. That's not a failure. Her decisions are hers alone." But even as I said it, I wondered, had we been too generous, too trusting? Had we created a sense of entitlement that evolved into this predatory behavior? Patricia Morrison's office was in a converted Victorian downtown at 9 a.m. Sharp. Thomas and I sat across from a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too many families torn apart by greed. I presented our evidence. She reviewed everything in silence, making occasional notes, her expression growing grimmer with each document. "Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to be direct with you," she said finally. "What you're describing is textbook financial exploitation. Your daughter has engaged in fraud, theft, and potentially elder abuse under state law. The question now is how you want to proceed." "What are our options?" Thomas asked. "You can report this to the police and pursue criminal charges. You can file a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds. You can do both. Or You can handle this privately, confronting your daughter and demanding repayment while taking steps to protect yourselves going forward. What would you recommend? I asked. Patricia leaned back in her chair. I've been doing this work for 20 years. In my experience, family financial abuse rarely stops on its own. It escalates. The fact that your daughter was pushing for power of attorney, suggesting you sell your house, positioning herself as the person to manage your finances, these are classic signs that she was planning something more extensive than just stealing party money. I believe she was systematically working to gain control of your assets. Thomas's hand found mine. What do we do? First, we secure your assets. Today, I'm going to help you establish an irrevocable trust that places your house and major accounts beyond anyone's reach except yours. Second, we revoke any existing authorizations Caroline has to access your financial information. Third, we document everything and prepare legal demand letters. And fourth, she paused, her eyes sympathetic, you need to prepare for the possibility that this destroys your relationship with your daughter. I think that relationship is already destroyed, I said quietly. We spent the next 4 hours in Patricia's office. She called in a notary, contacted our bank's trust department, drafted protection orders. By 2 p.m., our house was in an irrevocable trust with Thomas and me as beneficiaries. Our savings had been moved to new accounts that required both our signatures for any transaction. Our existing will had been updated to include specific anti-fraud provisions, and Patricia had drafted a letter to Caroline, formally demanding repayment of the stolen funds and notifying her that any further contact needed to go through the attorney's office. What about the power of attorney she wanted? Thomas asked. We're creating a durable power of attorney that names a professional fiduciary, not a family member. If something happens to either of you, an independent third party will make decisions according to your documented wishes, not someone with potential conflicts of interest. When we finally left Patricia's office, I felt hollowed out but strangely clear-headed. We'd taken action. We'd protected ourselves. Now came the hard part. Caroline was waiting at our house. Her car was parked in our driveway, and she stood on the front porch, her face a mask of concern that I now recognized as performance. Mom, Dad, thank God. I've been so worried. What's going on? Why have you been avoiding me? I walked past her to unlock the front door. Come inside, Caroline. We need to talk. In our living room, surrounded by photos of happier times, I placed the folder of evidence on the coffee table between us. Thomas sat beside me, his hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. I know what you did, I said. I know about the anniversary party expenses, the inflated costs, the fake vendor fees, the $40,000+ you stole from us. Caroline's face went through a rapid transformation. Shock, then confusion, then something calculating. Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. If there was a billing error, it wasn't an error. I opened the folder, spreading documents across the table. It was deliberate fraud. You lied about costs. You pocketed the difference. You tried to get a refund issued to your account. Jessica Chen from Riverside Manor gave me everything. My daughter's expression hardened. She had no right to discuss private financial matters with you. Private? It was our money. Our party. Our anniversary. You stole from us while pretending to do us a favor. I didn't steal anything. I worked hard planning that event. Do you have any idea how much time I spent? I deserve compensation for. You told me the cake cost $4,000. It cost $2,000. You said the photographer was $6,500. He charged $3,500. You collected $24,000 directly from us for deposits that cost half that much. Should I continue? Caroline stood abruptly. You're confused. You're mixing up numbers. This is exactly why I've been trying to help you organize your finances. You're getting older. You're not processing information clearly. Stop. Thomas's voice cut through her excuses. Stop lying to us, Caroline. We have bank records. We have contracts. We have emails. Your mother spent 25 years in HR. She knows how to build a case. And we've already been to an attorney." That stopped her. She looked between us, and for a moment, I saw real fear cross her face. Then it hardened into anger. "An attorney? You went to an attorney? About your own daughter? Over a misunderstanding about party expenses? About systematic theft," I corrected. "About fraud. About your attempts to gain power of attorney and control over our assets. About your suggestions that we sell our house and move into a facility. About every way you've been positioning yourself to take over our lives and our money. This is insane. Marcus and I were trying to help you. We were concerned about Dad's health, about you managing alone after retirement. Everything I did was out of love." "Love doesn't lie," Thomas said quietly. "Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't manipulate." Caroline's mask finally cracked. "You want to talk about manipulation? You two have controlled every aspect of my life since I was born. Perfect Eleanor and perfect Thomas, with your perfect marriage and your perfect careers. Do you have any idea what it's like being your daughter? The pressure to live up to impossible standards? So you decided to rob us?" I asked. "I decided to take what I deserve. You're sitting on $1 million house and retirement accounts you'll never spend. You don't need all that money. But Marcus and I, we have real financial pressures. His business needs capital. We have opportunities you can't even understand. That money would be mine eventually anyway. I just needed it now." There it was. The truth, ugly and raw. She'd rationalized theft as early inheritance. She'd convinced herself she was entitled to our assets simply because we were her parents. "Get out," Thomas said. Caroline stared at him. "What?" "Get out of our house, and don't come back." "Dad, you can't be serious. You have 3 minutes to leave before I call the police." She looked at me, perhaps expecting me to soften, to play mediator like I'd done throughout her childhood. But I met her gaze with stone. "Your father and I have secured our assets in a trust. We've revoked your access to our financial information. Our attorney has sent you a formal demand letter for repayment of the stolen funds. If you don't comply, we will pursue both civil and criminal charges. You are no longer welcome in this house or in our lives until you make full restitution and demonstrate genuine accountability for what you've done." Caroline's face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You're choosing money over your daughter? Over your only child?" "No," I said. "You chose money over your parents. We're just protecting ourselves from you." She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the glass, I watched her storm to her car, phone already pressed to her ear, probably calling Marcus, probably spinning this story to make herself the victim. Thomas and I sat in the silence she left behind. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, he said, "Did we just lose our daughter?" "I think we lost her a long time ago," I replied. "We just didn't know it yet." The next weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and emotional devastation. Caroline hired her own attorney, denying all wrongdoing, claiming the payments were gifts, that we were suffering from cognitive decline and being manipulated by our lawyer. She filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services, suggesting Thomas and I were victims of elder abuse by Patricia Morrison. The investigation was brief. Patricia provided evidence of our mental competency, our clear decision-making, the documented fraud. APS closed the case within 10 days, but the damage to our reputation in our social circle was done. Caroline had been telling friends and extended family that we'd turned on her irrationally, that we were unwell, that she was heartbroken over our deteriorating condition. Some people believed her. My own sister called, gently suggesting that maybe Caroline was right, maybe I should get checked out to be safe. The doubt, the whispers, they were almost worse than the theft itself. But then, something unexpected happened. Other parents started reaching out to me, quietly, privately, through mutual friends. They shared their own stories of adult children who'd stolen from them, manipulated them, tried to gain control of their assets. I wasn't alone in this. It was an epidemic of entitlement and financial exploitation hidden behind closed doors, because families were ashamed to admit it. One woman told me her son had forged her signature on a reverse mortgage. Another couple described how their daughter had convinced them to add her to their bank accounts, then drained them systematically. An elderly widower explained how his son-in-law had talked him into investing his life savings in a fake business opportunity. These conversations, painful as they were, gave me perspective. Caroline's actions weren't a reflection of our failure as parents. They were her choices, influenced by whatever combination of entitlement, financial pressure, and moral bankruptcy had taken root in her character. 3 months after the confrontation, Caroline's attorney contacted Patricia with a settlement offer. Marcus's real estate business had apparently collapsed, taking their savings with it. They were facing bankruptcy. Caroline wanted to make a payment plan rather than face criminal charges. Patricia advised us to accept. You'll probably never recover the full amount, but you'll get something. And more importantly, you'll have legal documentation of her admission of wrongdoing. It protects you if she ever tries this again. We agreed to a structured settlement, $12,000 immediately, taken from Caroline's personal accounts, the remaining amount in monthly payments over 5 years. If she missed a payment, we could pursue criminal charges without statute of limitations issues. The first check arrived with no note, no apology, just a bank transfer. I deposited it mechanically, feeling no triumph, no relief, just a dull acknowledgement that this was how family breaks. Thomas's health took a turn that winter. His heart condition worsened, requiring more aggressive medication and closer monitoring. Caroline reached out through her attorney, asking to be informed of his medical status. Patricia advised against it. She's shown herself willing to manipulate and exploit vulnerability, Patricia said. Don't give her ammunition or access during a crisis. So Thomas and I navigated his health decline alone. I took him to appointments, managed his medications, held his hand through scary test results. The person who should have been there, our daughter, was absent by our own choice. But it was the right choice. I couldn't trust her not to use his illness as leverage, as an opportunity to reassert control. One night, 6 months after everything fell apart, Thomas and I sat on our back patio watching the sunset. He'd had a good day, his energy better, his color improved. "Do you regret it?" he asked, cutting her off. I thought about it carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we raised a daughter capable of doing what she did. But do I regret protecting us? No, never. I keep thinking about the anniversary party, he said. How happy we were that day. How grateful I felt that Caroline had put it all together. And now that whole memory is poisoned. I know. But Thomas, we had 40 years before that day. Those years are real. Our marriage is real. What she did doesn't erase what we built. He squeezed my hand. What do we do now? We live our lives. We enjoy our retirement. We stay protected. And we accept that sometimes the family you're born with isn't the family you deserve. A year passed, then another. Caroline made her payments sporadically, always late, always with her attorney running interference. We never spoke directly. I'd see her car occasionally, driving through our neighborhood, and wonder if she was checking on us, planning something, or just nostalgic for the life she'd destroyed. Marcus's business never recovered. They sold their house, moved into a rental. Through the grapevine, I heard Caroline had taken a job at a clinic an hour away, probably to avoid running into people who knew us. Her life had contracted, diminished by consequences of her own making. I felt no satisfaction in her struggles, just a dull sadness that it had come to this. Thomas and I traveled that second year. We took the trips we'd always planned, used the money we'd protected to create new memories. Alaska, where we watched glaciers calve into the sea. Italy, where we ate pasta in ancient piazzas. Scotland, where Thomas traced his family genealogy through tiny highland villages. These experiences, this reclaimed freedom, it became our resolution. Not revenge, but renewal. We'd been given a second chance to live our retirement on our terms, without manipulation or exploitation. We were determined not to waste it. On our 42nd anniversary, Thomas and I renewed our vows again. Just the two of us, standing on a beach in Maine, speaking promises to each other with only the ocean as witness. No party, no guests, no one to steal from us or betray us. Just two people who'd survived betrayal and chosen to keep loving each other. I wish I could say there was reconciliation, that Caroline came to us with genuine remorse and we rebuilt our relationship. But that's not how this story ends. Maybe someday, but probably not. What I learned instead was this. You can love someone and still protect yourself from them. You can grieve a relationship while accepting it had become toxic. You can be someone's parent and still enforce boundaries that exclude them from your life. And most importantly, I learned that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Thomas and I have each other. We have friends who prove themselves loyal during our crisis. We have a life built on truth, rather than manipulation. 3 years after the anniversary party scam, I stand in my sunroom again, looking out over the garden Thomas and I planted together, the house we fought to keep, the life we reclaimed. My phone sometimes still buzzes with messages from Caroline's attorney about payment arrangements. I handle them mechanically, without emotion. That part of my life is administrative now, not emotional. She's a legal obligation being slowly resolved, not my daughter anymore. Is that sad? Absolutely. Do I wish things were different? Every day. But I don't regret the choices we made to protect ourselves. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is recognize when love has become weaponized against you and walk away. The sunset is beautiful tonight. Thomas will be home soon from his physical therapy appointment. We're making dinner together, maybe watching a movie. Tomorrow, we might drive to the coast. Next month, we're thinking about New Zealand. These are the moments Caroline tried to steal from us. The quiet joy of a life lived safely, without exploitation or manipulation. The peace of knowing we're protected. The freedom of retirement actually enjoyed, rather than anxiously managed against threats from within our own family. I pick up a photo from the side table. It's from that anniversary party 3 years ago. Thomas and I dancing, genuinely happy, not yet knowing what we'd discover. I don't throw it away. Instead, I place it in a box with other mementos of the life we had before. A reminder that betrayal can come from anywhere, even from people you love most. But I also place beside it a new photo, taken last month in Alaska. Thomas and I standing in front of a glacier, bundled in jackets, grinning like teenagers. This is the real inheritance Caroline gave up when she chose theft over integrity. Not our money, not our house, but these moments, this partnership, this hard-won peace. The phone rings. Patricia Morrison, with an update on the settlement. I answer it calmly, ready to handle whatever comes next, because that's who I am now. Not a victim, not someone's mark, but a woman who faced betrayal and chose survival, boundaries, and ultimately, a different kind of happiness. Outside, the light is fading. Thomas's car pulls into the driveway. I watch my husband of 42 years climb out, wave to me through the window, head toward the front door. The man I chose, the life we built, the future we protected. Caroline took our money and our trust, but she didn't take this, and that makes all the difference.